On a rise, breaking limits, redefine. On a mission, yeah, yeah, on a rise, breaking limits, redefine. On a mission, yeah, on a rise, breaking limits, redefine. On a mission, what is that? Put the city on my...
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Stolpa. I'm the CEO of Hill Institute. Thank you for being here for this conversation. We are celebrating the book launch of Wherever There Is Light, which is the exhibition in our gallery at the other end of the hallway. So please join us after the talk to see the exhibition and also see the publication. Tonight's talk is going to be moderated by Anisa Jackson, who is the project manager for Wherever There Is Light. I want to thank everyone for being here, and I'll see you in the gallery after the talk.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Can everyone hear me okay? So my name is Anisa Jackson, and like Sarah shared, I'm the project manager for Wherever There's Light. And so today we have our artist panel with Adamu Chan, Beverly Price, and Shuja Moore. And so how the panel will look like today is each of the artists, I'll introduce each of the artists, and they will talk a bit about their practice, and then we will have a moderated discussion, and then in the last 20 minutes or so, we will open up for audience Q&A. And yeah. So we'll start with Adamu. So Adamu is the filmmaker behind What These Walls Won't Hold. Transcending the grim realities of the COVID-19 pandemic, Adamu Chan's powerful documentary, What These Walls Won't Hold, paints a poignant portrait of resilience and hope blossoming within the confines of San Quentin State Prison. Chan, formerly incarcerated himself, offers a unique insider's view as he weaves a tapestry of relationships that bind together his community. The film delves into his own journey towards freedom while simultaneously amplifying the voices of his fellow incarcerated and their loved ones on both sides of the prison walls.
Thank you. Y'all hear me? Okay, cool. Thank you. Thanks. I want to thank Tilt for having me here, and all the other artists that are here that I met and I'm building relationships with. This is important work, and everything that I do is about building relationships. I feel like art is about is about helping facilitate building relationships with other people, and film is about, to me, is about getting people to gather in space together, and share an experience, and then do what we do, which is talk about it. So this is a little bit of a unique experience because we didn't have the screening really before the talk. So I know one person in here that watched the film. Thank you. But yeah, maybe I don't necessarily have to talk about the film. I can just talk about what it came out of, which I think first and foremost is like I am someone who grew up in the era of hip hop music and culture, which in, I guess, the 90s mostly. I was alive in the 80s too. It just seriously impacted the way that I saw the world and my place within the world. I always tell people that it taught me everything, for better or for worse, about how to be a person in this world and how to relate to other people, for better or for worse. I'm not saying it's all good. It taught me a lot of bad things too. And while I was incarcerated, I had an opportunity to because of where I was at in a very unique place that I was in, a very unique institution that I was in, was able to participate in media work and learn how to make films, learn how to make films, and was able to, from within the prison, produce media for our community inside, all across California. In all 36 prisons in California, we were producing a television show from inside of San Quentin that was going out to them. And I think for us, like, the responsibility to those people was to reflect their stories and portray them in ways that prioritize care and just an understanding of people's experiences. And I feel like that, for most people, historically, was not how media treated them or how they were portrayed in media. And I really felt like that was the most important work that I ever done. And I could feel the impacts, like, in real time. People come up to me on the yard, or people who came from other prisons would be like, wow, that I felt really inspired by what y'all are doing. And so in 2020, the COVID pandemic hit the world and hit the prison that I was at, San Quentin, specifically very hard. It was the site of the largest COVID outbreak in the country at the time. And those of us that had been doing media work, but also had been building community across the walls with other people because of the opportunities that we had, decided to start organizing and letting the world know about what was happening inside of these institutions. And so that's what the film is about. And I think that period was a historic moment for me, and also, like, really changed. Anyway, and so the other thing too is, like, to go back to the hip hop piece, is like, I don't have any formal training in film. I don't have any formal training in being a community organizer or anything, but I feel like I learned everything that I needed to know about experimentation and about working together with other people from that foundation. That's all I'll say. Thank you.
Thank you. So next, I'll introduce Shuja Moore and his documentary, Pardon Me. Pardon Me is a documentary short film by the formerly incarcerated Philadelphia-based filmmaker Shuja Moore that shows how pardons offer people the potential to live as full citizens, at the same time uplifting entire communities. The film features the stories of two people going through the pardon process and includes interviews with key civic leaders. By showcasing the transformative potential of pardons, Pardon Me sheds light on the importance of addressing the long-lasting impacts of criminal records and the need for a final release from the criminal justice system.
Hello, is this on? Can y'all hear me? I can speak without this too. I don't know if this is better or not. But anyway, my name is Shuja Moore. Thanks for being here. Thank you for reading that bio. Thank you, Sarah, for having me and showing the film. My name is Shuja Moore, and to really sum it up, at 22 years old, I was a young knucklehead out here in the world, and I thought I could sell a little weed on the side to make extra money and really find value and power, through financial means, and started carrying guns. And one day found myself in a nightclub, get into a fight. Thought I was about to get jumped, so I pulled the gun out. Guy grabbed it, and now we're in the middle of a nightclub wrestling over a gun. And bouncers swooped in, they throw us around, and the shot goes off, and the bullet went through the bouncer's thigh and pierced the abdomen of the friend who I was fighting, and that guy died the next day. And so I was convicted of third-degree murder and sentenced to 12 to 24 years. And the judge gave me a shorter sentence because she said she believed in the potential that I had showed in my history up to that point, but threatened me as well, saying that if I didn't live up to that potential, that if I ever was to come in front of her again, she'd throw the book at me. And I went upstate really distraught, causing devastation in that way to another family, to my own family. I was depressed and didn't really know what to do. And through mentorship in there, my brothers that are in the prison motivating me and pushing me to educate myself. That's really what I focused on while I was incarcerated. And, I really wanted to understand the law, but I ended up understanding how to become a man and how to become an adult and how to be responsible and care for your community. And so I didn't know what I was going to do or how I was going to do it, but I was determined to do that. And I picked up storytelling while I was in there. I would write, I would talk, I would mentor. But my story also got picked up in the Daily News, where it was more of a disparaging article, but it was a vow that I had made to say, hey, I want to, the way people who are incarcerated, these words like felon, inmate, and convict, and all the stuff like that, really synonymous almost with the N-word. And that's how we felt. And I come from a community, some of my brothers in they have art throughout the gallery, and they're here in the crowd now. We was working hard. We was working hard to change ourselves. And so I wanted to represent that, and putting my story in the hands of somebody from traditional media kind of played on stereotypes, right? So I thought about that while I was, after my reentry, really not able to find footing out here. And I said, you know what, I gotta tell my own story. I gotta tell the story of my brothers and sisters. And so without formal training, like many of us haven't been formally trained, we just have passion in art and are creative people. I found a cinematographer, I found an editor, and we created a series called Walkies. Anybody know what a walkie is? What's a walkie, Ray? Right. I think we all got it. That becomes your confidant. That becomes your best friend on the inside. And so we borrowed that term to really show the transformational journeys of people who are formerly incarcerated. And that led me to being able to launch a career in media and content making. And I really blend that with community advocacy. And so I planted my flag in West Philly, where my family has been for several generations. And my goal is to inspire these young men to become the best of themselves and to really bridge communities together. And my latest project is Pardon Me. One of the things that I've seen doing direct service work, one of the things I've lived through, is just how much you are disenfranchised in society once you have an arrest. You can be legally discriminated against in every facet of society. It really is slavery all over again, or Jim Crow all over again. And we have a mechanism right now that can provide a true second chance, and that's through the clemency process, the pardon process. And so in 30 minutes, that's what we make an economic argument about the need for that. So again, thanks for having me. I don't want to be too long-winded, but I did want to say that, I think all of us are up here to really uplift narratives that need to be told so that we can really better society.
Thank you. Next, we have Beverly Price. Beverly Price, a native of Washington, D.C., is a visionary photographer and creative activist. She earned her Master of Fine Arts degree in photographic and electronic media from Maryland Institute College of Art in 2022. Price's work focuses on amplifying the voices of Black youth, fostering community engagement through her photography. She is known for her contributions to communities such as Berry Farms and Congress Heights. Price has received prestigious awards, including the Smithsonian James E. Webb Scholarship and the Leslie King Hammond Graduate Fellowship. She is a 2023 Art for Justice recipient, 2023 Right of Return Fellow, and 2024 Freeze Impact Prize finalist. Her work has been exhibited in institutions such as the National Museum of Women in the Arts, American University, Virginia Commonwealth University, Galeria La Optica in Mexico City, and the Simon Mikio Gallery in Aspen, Colorado.
I would just say my work is pretty interesting to kind of like discuss, because I'm not really used to like discussing it outside of just I would say just like doing the work visually. But what I will say is when I was younger, I was 17 years old, and I got involved with a group of young girls. I was known for being a really good basketball player. And I got hooked up with a bunch of girls, and we were hanging out, and we started to do carjackings because in DC, carjackings were very popular, or like it was like a cool thing to do, and I thought it was cool to do. And I lost a best friend of mine, so I just was like dealing with a lot of trauma that I didn't deal with at a young age. So I got incarcerated for 5 years at the age of 18, and I came home at 23. I was in prison with like Martha Stewart. I had people like that I actually were friends with in there, but I had a lot of good mentors. But coming home, I knew that I wanted to change my life. And I ended up getting a scholarship for PR. I was at Georgetown University, and I ended up getting a scholarship for PR at the Smithsonian, and I got exposed to a photographer that is in my community named Stephen Cummins. And I saw his work, and I just remember being so just fascinated with photography a little bit, but I was just around art, being in the Smithsonian. And then I ended up having this dream when I was exiting my fellowship, and it was 4 black boys coming out of the ground in Bury Farms, and they handed me a camera. And I told some people at my job, and they was like, oh, they grabbed you. And I was like, what are they talking about? But later on in 2016, I picked up a camera, and I just started to document, and I started to look at a sequence in my work, and it was like black children. And I did a few exhibits at the Women's Museum. It was just a pop-up show, and it was called When the Children Speak. But the series that I ended up doing was called Royal Blue. And Royal Blue was special to me because I saw something in the boys that represented myself, and I was able to tap into their story because I was a woman. I don't know, I was like kind of like to them, I wasn't like super feminine or like overly or man, so I was able to like get in a way that I don't think other people can get in because of my androgyny, I would say, or being a woman that they, because you know, it's I can't even describe it, but I was able to get close to the boys, and I just saw something in them. So my work ended up I started to document them once one of the little boys, Kavon Brown, had died at 11 years old. And I took to the boys and the brother Q, who recently just passed. They were like 12, him, Ray, Adrian, and another little boy named Q, when the little boy got killed, because I was wondering in my community, like, why wasn't nobody talking about 11-year-old boy getting killed? Like, we were beginning to normalize youth murder and youth violence. And that's when I believe that my work started to focus on preventative justice, not about a story about, oh, I was incarcerated or it's about me. But how can I step into the lives of someone that I see reflective of me or been through something that I've been through, because I knew what that looked like. And, you know, I just started to document them, and that we end up being friends. I started documenting them in 2019, and we finished our series in like 2022. Q recently died, the brother of the 11-year-old boy who got killed in April of this year. And 2 of the other boys that's in this photo are currently incarcerated for the exact same thing I did. Recently, I had to write a letter to the judge, which actually helped them with their recent case because of the Royal Blue series, because I talked about that, give them a second chance, because I was that kid that at that same age that committed that crime, but I was given a second chance through something that DC had called the Youth Act. And, you know, I think maybe the sentencing was lighter on me because I'm a woman, but I was like, look at where I came from, and I was able to give them my story and give them the story and the work that they were doing and trying to get the judge to see the full spectrum of what these children are missing. They're not violent, they aren't troubled. I mean, they're not really trying to be that, but that's all they know in these environments. So I would just say that this project is something that is constantly going on even today. But it's beyond a project because they're not just a subject, they're a reflection of where I used to be. But I also see something coming out that'll be very beautiful and light at the end. And I just would say, you know, my work is always evolving. It's about community, it's about Washington, D.C., and what it looks like to be a photographer, but also be a Black woman photographer, and our clairvoyancy and our ability to see and the need for femininity in this masculine mentality with men, particularly young boys as well. So, like I say, my work is constantly evolving. I don't want to go on for days, but these boys really taught me a lot. I'm still learning through them, and I'm still documenting this process with this story with them. But it's, I want to see what they look like in 10 more years. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. So something that each of you touched on, and I'm wondering if we could go a bit more in depth. All of you in some way have talked about your involvement in community organizing or community advocacy. And I'm wondering if you all would like to expand on how you see the role of art in advocacy and community organizing in general, and then also specifically in your individual practices.
I can go first. I mean, I'll focus on my latest project, Part Me, in which I partner with a legal organization that already helps people with pardons. They have a statewide network of organizations that assist people filling out applications, and so we took the film all around the state to where they kind of had hubs like York, PA, Lancaster, PA, Reading, PA, Allentown, Erie, Pittsburgh, to not only host a screening, but to build community and have conversation around it and connect people to those hubs. And we've seen tremendous impact in attendees who felt seen for the first time, and they were able to be in community with organizational leaders and business leaders that were able to hear them for the first time. So I've seen the impact that storytelling can have on people in real time, and it's been a magical experience. And I'd also say that they say he who tells the stories rules society. I mean, we know the impact of storytelling. So I do feel fortunate that we live in a time now where the marginalized story, people want to hear the marginalized stories even more. And so I think the time is now for us to really make sure we put our perspective out there. And there's been a democratization of the ways in which we can do that. And I would encourage us to support each other as artists. We have to value each other's art before any mainstream, businesses and organizations will appreciate it. We have to do that from the culture. So.
I would just say, I think where the art and the advocacy kind of came into play recently, and what I feel like I learned from this experience is what I just was expressing about even being able to write a judge and let them see the empathy on those boys' face in those photos and how it changed the judge perspective. Because he didn't just see them as a carjacker, but he saw the whole story. So it showed me how not only did the photographs go far within some of the art circles, but it went further in the legal system, inside of it, really, and for a real life situation. So I think that that's a part of the advocacy that I like too, because I don't really want to save the world, because you can't. But I think just taking a few people at a time, if I'm able to help 1 or 2, 3 people, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the part of the advocacy that matters. And then too, just seeing your story as a photographer, people that knew me back in the day, they dang, photography took you that far. But it's when you in prison, you learn creativity in such a way, that you don't come home. You don't have a choice but to come home and be creative. So I think the advocacy is just living through your work. I mean, living your life and living in a better way today, and showing that people can change and people can do better. So, thank you.
I feel like you want to say something.
This is just not loud enough. Sorry about that. No, you're fine. No, I'm good now.
Money. I think I would just the point that I had made earlier about art being a tool to bring people together to build relationships is what I think art's role in organizing is. I feel like organizing is just relationship building. That's all it is when we build relationships with each other, then we start to see each other as more than just an individual. We start to feel our power individually and collectively, and we start fighting for each other. We start moving things when we start recognizing that we do have power. And I think that art, I feel like especially right now, the world seems like a place where people are arguing so much over politics and opinions and different identities, etc. And it's so complicated and so difficult to understand. And ideology seems like it's leaving people with their feelings right now. And art, to me, is something that taps into feeling and like in a very different way than I feel like ideology does. And I think it's something that we need right now. I think also too, I think there's something about the legacy of Black art in this country that is different than Western art, in that I think the Western tradition of art is very exclusive and excludes people, and is about something that's, just exclusive. And I feel like the history of Black music and storytelling is about bringing everybody in and including everybody. And I think that's important. That's important for us. It's important. Yeah. Right now. Very important.
Building off of relationship building, I was curious about how each of you build connection and trust amongst the subjects you photograph and film. And if there are any particular strategies you use to connect with your subjects, or also what has been the role of collaboration with the individuals you photograph or film.
I would say getting close to those young boys was very hard at first, because when I first heard about the murder, I reached out to a friend of mine that lived in this community in DC called Woodland Terrace. And I said, man, I heard about this 11-year-old boy that got killed, man. He was like, oh, that's my folks, my friend's little son or something. And I went down there, and he was like, I'll introduce you to him. And I went up to the little boys, and I was like, at first they looked at me kind of weird. They was like, what she want? She got a camera? I said, first of all, I'm coming here because I want to ask you if you're okay. I'm not here to take a photo. I don't want to know what happened. I'm not trying to be the police, but are you okay? I lost a friend at the same age, or like a little older than y'all, but I lost a friend. And it kind of turned me off or whatever. My friend of mine in the community was like, she cool, man. She been locked up before she. So after that, they was like, but I remember looking at the boy Q, who ended up passing away, whose brother got killed. That was the 11-year-old. He looked at me and he was like, when I said, are you okay? He was so like, he appreciated that, because everybody, with men in the neighborhood, he had to be rough, so it was like, when I asked him, I was like, are you okay? I just remember him looking like, you can photograph us. So I built that relationship with him. I was like, I'm gonna come back tomorrow. And then I started to pay them. So I would pay them. I said, look, we're gonna look at this like a classroom assignment. I want you to tell your story. I want you to be honest, because this is gonna help other people that's in your position. And so I started like paying them. And when I sold work, they was happy. I was like, man, we made some money. I'm passing them out, and I was able to, when I won the Art for Justice, I was able to give them money. And I just remember their faces, and they was like, we can really make money from art? I was like, you can make money from art. Serious money. So they was like, their first time getting like $1,000. They was like, oh, she came over here, got us $1,000. So I think the main thing is collaborating and giving your subjects that money, and also just like supporting them and beyond just their story, but just like looking out for them and making sure they're taken care of, not just on the financial level, but on empathy level and just making sure you tell their story correctly.
So I made a film about my friends. So I didn't really have. I made a film with people that I already had existing relationships with, and so the trust was already a given, and I feel like those people trusted me. I also think that coming into the documentary film industry has been maybe it's something I already knew, but a lot of it is about and journalism too. Really, journalism is about not really having relationships with people, but being removed from your participant or subject's lives in a certain way. And I think that always produces certain outcomes and privileges certain perspectives. And to be honest with you, privileges certain biases, like the people who populate journalism rooms or populate the documentary film industry. Their biases show up in the stories that are told. And so I think one of the things that I'll try to do outside of just this film, but is tell stories about people that I know intimately and prioritize relationships in what I'm trying to do. And I think the stories are more authentic and you get different stories. Yep.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what both of y'all said, I feel fortunate because I get to tell the stories of a lot of my friends and people that I serve time with. You already know, we're told at a young age that really our stories don't matter. It's not an overt message, it's a covert message through media, through the stories that do make the media and get the most attention. So, and if our stories are told, oftentimes they're not told, in a well-rounded way. So I've learned that I didn't realize until after I started making, short films and stuff, that a lot of people really want to tell their story. A lot of people, want to talk about their journey and what they've been through and what they've overcome and have that recognized by others. And so, yeah, I feel fortunate that I get so far to tell not only the stories of my friends, but also other people who just, again, sit at the margins and don't often have their stories told.
No, I would just say I'm kind of opposite. I love telling the stories of my friends because I like to see myself or the stories of my friends and the strangers. It's something about a stranger to me. As a photographer, I learned as a street photographer, I've learned the skill of how to learn something about somebody in a split of a second. Because a person is more honest with you when you don't really know them. And that's what street photography has taught me. And that's why people you capture kind of some of these movie scenes when I'm on the street. And I'm it's because people tell you so much about themselves when you don't know them. So that's just sometimes my perspective. So I just like that what street photography has taught me when approaching subjects and finding the familiar in the unfamiliar.
Thank you. I think I'll ask one more question and then we'll open it up for the audience. So my last question for now is, how do you hope the conversation around abolition or prison reform and the lives of incarcerated people evolves in the coming years? And what role do you see artists playing in that evolution?
Well, right now, I'm gonna continue to focus on my latest project, which is using a mechanism that we already have in our system that already works. We can wipe people's records away. The governor of every state can do this. In Pennsylvania, we've revolutionized the system, and we've pardoned a lot more people than other states, but it's not enough. Particularly when you think about mass incarceration and how much the incarceration of people of color has grown, and how in the industries that have been born from that. We need to let a lot more people free, so that we can rebuild our communities. So yeah, that's what I'm focused on right now, getting these records off of us so that we can be full citizens again.
would say basically just like I'm going into new work now. I feel like after the little boy Q got killed, I'm being called into a new work that's a little different, that's more community centered. But I would say I just want the next work. I just want to be basically like living by example and not be closed in a box around mass incarceration, because when people say, oh, she a formerly incarcerated artist, no, I am an artist, a real artist. I'm not in no box. This work belongs just in any museum as half the people I see. Believe me, I see it. So what I'm saying is, I am beyond an incarcerated artist. I want you to see the work and be like, man, this girl was incarcerated, but she is doing other things. And it's about community for me right now. And it's about love. I told the story that I had to tell, but it's time to move forward into a different narrative, into a new reality. So I think the next narrative for this needs to be not them being a formerly incarcerated artist, but a real artist that's coming out here giving you that real raw stuff that people need to see. Because I don't want to be that artist that's saying, oh, my work is informed by, I'm real, I'm raw, this is what I've been through, and this is what I want you to feel through the work. I'm not trying to say fancy words, I'm not trying to sound like nothing big. This is what I came from the street. I went to Georgetown. I got a master's degree without a bachelor's. And that's the example that you need to see when you see somebody that come out of prison. You know what I'm saying? So I just say, lead by example. That's it. We had this discussion.
What was the question again? I want to go after that.
You don't have to. You don't want to.
You started that conversation.
What was the question?
Was around how do you hope the conversation around abolition and the lives of incarcerated people evolves in the coming years, and the role that artists play in that evolution?
Okay. I don't personally believe we can reform this system. I think the system already wants to reform itself. This prisons is a reform of a previous system of authoritarianism and social control. And the system is constantly reforming itself, making itself more efficient, better, responding to resistance, responding to uprising. And I do also see that things like pardons, or when I advocate for my loved ones to come home, or for certain conditions inside of the prison to get better, that's important work, but that's not the focus of what I'm trying to do here. And I believe in my heart that we can't reform this system. And I try to carry that ethic in my art and how I respond to questions or offers, work that I do, how I respond in the community. And like I said, I feel like the artists are important in this moment. Yep.
Thank you. So now we can open it up to the audience. And if anyone, you can either come up and speak into the microphone, or, oh, thank you.
I have to leave. Thank you. Appreciate all the future questions that I won't be able to participate in. But yeah, I also want to give a lot of love to these folks too, because they about to answer some good questions.
Does anyone,
I I wanted to know, like, specifically, where do you all see yourselves in 10 years? Like, what's the 10-year goal? Where do you want to be? You know, like, yeah, what's your 10-year?
Know that answer?
On the beach.
I would say just constantly growing and evolving as an artist and going into new works and new expansions of who you are. That's what I say. In 10 years, yeah, and probably into a whole different body of work, like a whole new style. I don't know where I might be in 10 years.
I agree with that. I definitely want to continue to grow as an artist and using and exploring different mediums. But I'm really excited about moving into narrative storytelling, you know, doing feature-length movies. You know, I want to grow into that. So I don't know what the future holds, but I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic about it for sure, and want to continue to grow as an artist, like she said.
Yeah, I was thinking about also, I'm about to start taking like a film class, so I'm thinking about getting into more experimental film storytelling. So that's something I might dive into next.
Okay, my question was more geared towards if you guys have thought about any projects that have to do with the cycle of people getting incarcerated and also the effects that it has on people who are family members and friends, kind of dealing with that, because I feel like we don't really talk about it too often, and we don't talk about it in schools, and people don't really have that outlet to like say, okay, this is not just you that it's happening to, but it's also me, to have more of like a open forum, but being able to document what those emotions feel like.
Yeah, I could go. I can't say specifically that that's a story that I'm focused on right now. Is absolutely an important story that needs to be told. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a documentary called A Woman Outside, with Crystal Bush, who's from Philly. She's featured in it. It really tells her story about how she supported her family members while on the outside, going so far as even to start a bus transportation service to people that are incarcerated. So, yeah, it absolutely is a story that needs to be told, and I'll be open to, you know, exploring that.
I think for me, I'm gonna revisit some of the earlier work. I want to kind of see the evolution of the young boys that I was documenting, the ones that are currently incarcerated. I've been in conversations with their mothers as well lately, so I'm thinking about like getting more portraits of the mothers this time. I think I'm going into focusing on the mothers next while they in this process with their sons, and that's probably something I'm gonna dive into. But I definitely want to see what happens to them after this and where their life goes to. I think it's going to be a lot more positive than it would be negative.
I have two examples. One is from the exhibition. So Jose Diaz has a film that is screening as part of the exhibition here at Tilt that he made in collaboration with his partner. That's going through sort of her experiences while he was incarcerated. And then also out of Chicago, there is a experiential opera performance called Force that is led by an artist named Anna Martine Whitehead. And it is experiential opera that was written and performed collaboratively amongst a group of people who had loved ones who are incarcerated about their experiences in the waiting room.
I have a question here. You guys talked about not having any specifically like formal training, but as you guys been developing your craft, who are some artists that have inspired or influenced the work that you're doing?
Can you say the last part again? I'm sorry.
Who are some artists that have inspired or influenced the work that you're doing?
A lot of the artists that I would say inspire me are some of the artists I collaborate with. some of my friends that I'm with every day. They really inspire me. I've been fortunate lately to be able to meet some of the artists that I really like, that I used to really like study their work, like Ming Smith. I would say I really connect with Ming Smith work because it's on the line of like this clairvoyancy that Black women have in our lens. Like, it's like this ghostly nature. Like, I feel like me and Ming Smith will be in good conversation with each other because we're both into energy, not imagery. I like to see energy. I like to see what a soul looks like, not just a picture that just is like, oh, it's a beautiful picture, but it's this like level of like spirit in the work. So I'm into that. I would say Ming Smith, Curry May Williams, I mean, those are just everyday names, but it's also my friends like Shantae Gates. It's people like you, Larry. It's people like some of my right of return fellows that I'm collaborating with. So I would just say Felicia G. It's just all my people that surround me every day. So.
I agree. I mean, I get inspired by all art in all forms and everywhere. So it's hard to pinpoint and say who. You know, I think of some of the neighborhood people from Niall Livingston. I mean, it's even hard to name a lot of the fully based artists that I follow because everything that I see, I love. I mean, you got Ray here, amazing photographer. You have Akil here. He's an amazing artist as well. So I really get inspired by a lot of people. Film-wise, I say the greats like Spike Lee, Michael Mann, Steven Soderbergh, David Fincher. I like, you know, people, intelligent storytelling where you can't really figure out where it's going, and you feel like you learn something at the end. Mm-hmm. So any artist that gives me that through music, through dance, through whatever, I enjoy going on the exploration.
Yeah, and I can't even go without saying I'm a huge Jacob Lawrence fan. Jacob Lawrence is like my main, like, his storylines is like, I love his work. He's always been an inspiration of mine. So I can't even, and I love that he's a teacher. So, yeah.
And I gotta say Spike too. I don't know if I ain't say Spike, but.
I had to say Jacob Lawrence. Everybody knows him.
Before we end, I just also wanted to create space in case you two had any questions for each other.
We just met right before we sat on the panel, so I'm definitely interested in learning more about your journey, your story, and seeing your artwork. You remind me of a relative of mine, Shan Wallace, out of Baltimore. I don't know if you're familiar with her.
I know about Shan. I don't know her, but I know about her.
That's actually my cousin, and you know, I've been fortunate when I first got out to kind of connect with her and see her, because I know her from a baby, and to see how she, you know, got into the space and started storytelling has been really inspiring. So you remind me of her a little bit, just meeting you. So I'm definitely interested to see, you know, how you represent in DC, because I love DC too. So
I'm gonna represent DC.
Moving it down.
I don't know, they can represent Baltimore, but I'm gonna represent DC. So. You're gonna hear all type of moles and everything from me. So no, but I definitely will say I'm interested in your work too. I'm really inspired by how we're both storytellers or people that's in the image making world that aren't formally trained. Like, I literally picked up a camera at 33 years old, like. And I didn't know like it was gonna be even that. I was just, my best friend Jennifer at the time was the photographer. And she was like, oh, I have a film camera, try that out. And then I just went, after that, changed my whole life. So I'm interested in knowing more about you, and like, I just love how your story came, and I'm interested in also your movie. So yeah, let's try to connect. Yeah. I wish we had more time to like see everybody's work.
You could go to pardonsnow.org, 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 like right now. And that's how you, right now, that's how you can find out, you know, our screening. You can look at our screening schedule or just stay up to date about the campaign. And I'm on Instagram, Shuja Moore, SHUJAMOORE, all social platforms, my first and last name. Thanks for that question.
I have a website, Beverly Price Photo, so it's Beverly, Beverly Price, and then photo.com, and then I have an Instagram at Film Goddess _ so it's FILMGODDESS _ That's my Instagram. But I'm recently doing work that is like grounded in the work of how I started photography from my dream. First it was the boys, now it's going into the community that I had the dream about, the dream came about in. So I'm doing I finished a big installation actually last night with this work where I'm blending historic photos of Berry Farms and the community Berry Farms in DC from the 1940s and the 1800s. With the Native Americans, it's going to be from the 1800s, but the 1940 images are from this thriving Black community, and I'm blending it with new work that I documented from 2016 to 2024. So it's called Spirit Memory, and it's a big installation. It's like 5 foot by 5 foot, wrapped around a wall. It's the biggest work I've ever done. I had help from Felicia G., one of my other Right of Return fellows and Art for Justice fellows, Marcus Magani. We collaborated, like he, hooked me up with like a great fabricator and the materials to pretty use. And I mean, this piece is crazy. It's a permanent install in a community that I love and where it's rooted in my start of photography. So I'm excited for people to see it. So if you're in DC, come down, check us out. That piece is going to be in the new development called Ashbury in Berry Farms in Washington, D.C. It's going to be a groundbreaking and ribbon cutting by the mayor, 11/21. Next week on Thursday at 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. They're going to reveal the piece, but the piece is crazy. I'm going to put it on my website, but it's on my Instagram. I just did a little quick photo. I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, it's a really like when you walk into the building, it's like it teaches you a history because it's just layering and it's crazy. I can't even believe I even created a piece like that. It just like blew me away. I went from like little black and white pictures to like crazy installs. So all of us are able to do that.
I just wanted to say something real quick, y'all. How y'all doing? It's Vernon. And that's for everybody. Can we just give them a huge round of applause, please? You all deserve to be celebrated for sure. I'm gonna keep it very simple. I just want y'all to continue to be the example, like you said, and just continue to inspire the young ones that are paying attention, because a lot of why we are where we are is because they didn't have great examples, that were actually stepping up and doing what they love or working towards a cause for change. So continue to do that. I salute both of y'all for that. And I love the work. Let's go, y'all. Let's keep turning it up.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you. I love this exhibit too. I want to say that this exhibit was really well curated. It is really beautiful. I walked in here and I was like taken aback by the photography, the level of quality on the wall. So you all should just give yourself a round of applause. Like y'all are leading as well by example. Like some of that work I was like, oh, I didn't even like, I was like, man, this is crazy. So y'all did a great job.
Thank you so much. Thank you to our panelists and to all of you for sticking around. And we will be having the book launch over in Tilt. So stick around for that and see you all over there. Thank you.
On a rise, breaking limits, redefine. On a mission, yeah, on a rise, breaking limits, redefine. On a mission, yeah, on a rise, breaking limits, redefine. On a mission, what is that? Put the city on my back, yeah, trophy stack.